Hey guys, Joe Sidoti here. Thanks for stopping by for another video. Now this one is near and dear to my heart because I had the opportunity to interview Dave McDonald. Dave is a front of house engineer for some seriously big artists. We're talking Adele, Frank Ocean, Florance and the Machine, Air, and lots others. And so this was an honor to be able to sit down with Dave and just talk about his journey, how he got where he's at. We talk about touring, we talk about digital consoles, we geek out on some gear, and we talk about some of the mental capacities that you have to have when being a front of house engineer. So this was a really awesome opportunity. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. All right, let's dive into the interview with Dave McDonald. All right. Well, hey, hello, David. Officially now, we've been talking off camera, but I just want to kind of do a brief introduction of you, and then I got some questions, and obviously we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So I know you're not a big name dropper, but I have to at least drop some names here of some artists that you've worked with. Portishead, Air, Florance and the Machine, Adele, Broken Bells, Frank Ocean, just to name a few, right? Is there any other artists that you are especially proud of working with?
Sigur Rós.
Okay.
Yeah, there's probably a few others, but I kind of all merged into one big sound.
Right?
Yeah, you know, I've been around a while.
Yeah, you've been, what, 35, 37 years you've been doing this?
Yeah, about 35, I should
Yeah.
imagine.
So you don't look old enough, though. I mean, you do have the white hair on the chin.
I know, but that's because, you know, I can't get to the chemist at the moment. Pharmacy can normally sort that out, you know.
People make fun of my soul patch. What do you think? Is it an American thing, or is it?
It's funny you call that a soul patch. We call that a soul chip. So
okay.
I like the soul patch because it's bigger than a chip. So yeah. It's cool.
I need to shave, but you know, you gotta kind of stay rugged.
Yeah. It's you know, it's a workman look.
My wife doesn't like me clean shaven. She likes a little scruff on her man.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to just talk about a little bit of how you got to where you are. A lot of people may be like, I wish I could mix for some of those artists someday. You know, I want to kind of talk about a little bit of your journey. And then towards the end, we can geek out on some gear and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
When did you get started? When did the bug bite you, like to say, this is it, this is what I want to do?
Kind of in a strange way. I mean, as a child, I was very interested in music, and especially record players. I was fascinated by record players and the way they worked and just the way that they amplified sound. And I just had some basic ideas where I would just take a record player apart and put wires back together, and sometimes it would work and sometimes they would never work again. You know, it's just a thing. I was just fascinated by the sound of how this all worked. And so when I was about 17, 18, a friend of mine had a local reggae band, and he had a little tiny studio, and we were working for a theatre company at the time, just a sort of a job creation scheme done by the government for kids who really couldn't find any work or do anything. It was bad times at that period of time.
Okay.
And there was a little sound department, and I was just used to hang around this sort of little sound department, seeing what people were doing. And this guy who had the reggae band noticed I was always there, and that I had interest in it. And they did a gig, and he said, well, why don't you come along and look what this guy does behind the desk? And you know, after a few sort of shows, maybe have a go. I thought, yeah, okay. So I turned up at this one show, and several hundred people turned up at the show. And he just said, go on then, do it. Sweet. And that was it. And I can still remember it. It was horrible. It was absolutely heinous. And I was in shock for a long time, but I just realised that's what I wanted to do from that point.
But isn't it funny that if he hadn't let you do that. He had to, not be prideful to say, well, this is my job. You can't come in here, and he let you do that.
Yeah, it would be a completely different outcome. And that's one of the things that I've always tried to do whenever I've worked. If I see somebody who's interested, I'll always get them on board. I'll say, look, and try and mentor them. And then, and there's a few guys that I've worked with over the years who I've known right from their very start, and they're booming, and hopefully they do the same thing. And that's the way I think it should be done.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, schools are kind of whatever. I'm more of the just learn on the job. I mean, I didn't go to school for it, to be an engineer. And I know some people get good success with that, but for me, it's about literally getting thrown in the deep end like you did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, for me, it's the only way really to learn. You can have all it's such a complicated, funny subject, what we do. And there's so much paperwork on it. And you can be such an expert on that side of things. And I've seen a lot of these guys when they actually go to do the job. I think, but you haven't got any ears,
Yeah.
You've got a brilliant mind and a brilliant tongue, but your ears don't work.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yes. We love pudding.
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, the concert goers, the CD buyers, they don't care how smart, they just know whether it hits them, whether they're engaged by it, whether it invokes an emotion.
Yeah, and that's mixing as well. It's everybody mixes differently. And sometimes it's really understanding the music and how to play with it and how to actually use the dynamics of the music. It's a bit like a magician. I'm raising this hand and you're all looking at this hand, but I'm robbing you with this one. And that's how you mix. You sort of, you bring things down nice and low and you get that sort of sense of sort of security with someone, and then you just bang, you hit them with something, before they can recover, you take them back to where they were in that nice place again, and that's right. That's what I call really good mixing. You see guys who can do that. It's like, you understand.
The dynamics, keeping the dynamics moving and taking them somewhere. I want to leave a concert having felt that I just experienced something that I just couldn't get sitting at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I hate those linear, with a guy who's just too loud all the way through. Well, why have you done that? That's just horrible. You've got a whole row of weaponry there that you can use. Right. And one of them is volume. Don't use the same trick all the way through. Right. It's, and I think that's part of the bug why I love it is that sort of, that thing ticking in your mind when you're mixing. And then sometimes when you make a mistake, I love when you make a mistake and you think, oh, that was really interesting. And you sort of like hold that in the back of your head for, something to develop later on.
Yeah. I don't know if it was, Brian Wilson or someone, but they said if you make the same mistake every 8 bars, it's no longer a mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Hey, exactly. It worked. Go for it. Yeah. I have a saying: close the textbook and do what it takes to make it sound good.
Yeah, totally. Well, with me being dyslexic and not being the textbook guy, I don't own any. So,
right. Yeah. I don't know. There's handbooks out there. I've never read them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you from that time to where you felt really confident, that you felt that, hey, I'm going to charge these people to mix and it's going to sound great? How long did that take?
Okay, so that's quite a long process. I mean, it's learning my trade, as I say, learning my apprenticeship, and working with numerous individuals, bands, forms of music. So I would say it would have been 10 years of learning what I needed to learn to get to a stage where I felt I kind of know what I'm talking about. And I'm still at that stage. I kind of know what I'm talking about, but I can sort of talk about it with a bit of age behind it, Right. But yeah, at least 10 years of really, really fooling around and not taking it 100% serious, but being very passionate about it.
And would you say how important is it to you to make the mistakes early on? Like, I mean, I guess it's safe to say you learn from your mistakes, and that's where you get to a point where you say, I know not to do this because I've made that mistake before.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you know, every engineer has to experience that, walking away from a gig thinking that I'm in the wrong business. You know, you have to have that some nights where it's just like, my God, that was appalling. What did I do? Shit, you know, there's nothing, you know.
Yeah.
And take it on the chin. And that's part of the learning process. And you think, right, I'm not going to do that again. You know, you learn little things like, don't trust people. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the amount of times over the years, I don't mean it in a bad way, but, you know, you sort of like, oh, you go to some, can you just take care of this when I'm doing this? And they don't do it. And you think, shit, I've done it again. I've trusted someone and they've done me, you know?
Yeah. A mic being not placed right or something, or something not plugged in, or
so the mistakes are so important, so important for the learning process, you know?
Yeah.
It's like some businessmen say, you know, you're not a real businessman until you've gone bankrupt at least twice, you know?
Yeah, the old Thomas Edison light bulb thing. Yeah. So, I learned the hard way a lot of times. I remember there was this one time I was mixing for an artist, and the guy who was in charge of the production company that hired me, he came up to me and said, "What are you doing, sizzling bacon?" And it was his way of saying, like, your top end is off the charts. You know, you need to mellow it out. And so I never made that mistake again. Like, I always then from that point was mindful, like, how's the top end on the lead vocal? Is it too, you know, is it too much? Am I sizzling bacon?
Crispy, similar, you know.
Yeah.
But it's quite easy. You can get it that far without it actually ringing off, you know. Yeah. So I think that's quite impressive. That's a skill.
Just add more and more 10K. That's all you need. That's how you sizzle bacon, by the way. 10K. So I want to talk a little bit about your approach front of house and system tuning.
Yes.
I remember, of course, I was a system tech for an American tour with Air, and you were on front of house. And I remember specifically this one time we went into this room. I wouldn't call it an arena, but whatever. It was a huge concrete room. And to kind of tune the system a little bit or ring it out, you know, you placed the reference mic on the concrete, and then you cranked the pink noise, and you looked at the RTA, and you made decisions based off of that data. Walk us through your thought process with the mic on the concrete.
I was probably hungover. I can't remember that. It sounds like something I would have done, but
well, I remember going, okay, this is unorthodox, but you did a lot of stuff that is like panning the toms backwards from the audience's perspective, but you had a reason for it.
Yeah, I always do that. I still do that now. For me, they sound better. A drum kit, it just sounds so much better when you have the toms in reverse. And I don't understand why. When I put them the other way, I think
it could be a phase thing between the overheads and the toms, maybe.
Yes, well, this is I've discussed this not very long ago, and I do think it is something to do with the overheads and some sort of phase thing going on. But you get such a dynamic swoop of the toms when they roll around, when you put them in reverse, and to me, and people really notice it. They go, "Wow, cool! Do you hear those drums?" It's like, but if you have them the other way, they just go, "Drums." You know?
Drums.
So it is something that I do, and a few people have pulled me up on it. I think, you got good ears, you spotted it, you know. I mean, going back to the tuning systems and that. I mean, now I tune systems just. I use 2 bits of music and that's it. And I just know I don't need any electronic devices or anything. I just know if I'm in that ballpark.
Right.
One of them is weird. It's old Donna Summer, I Feel Love, which sounds absolutely terrible on anything. But what's interesting is the bass line is really interesting the way it's put together. If you pan the bass to one side, you only get one part of the bass, and if you pan the bass to the other side, you only get the other part of the bass. So you can tell something out of phase very, very easily by just panning that track. It's instant signal. You should try it just on the stereo. Just pan,
what song is that from Donna Summer?
I Feel Love. You know, the early Giorgio Moroder sort of electronic disco sort of track.
Okay.
Everyone knows it. And then Pink Floyd The Wall is the other thing I use there. And that's because of the spectrum of sound it was recorded in, the period of time when it was done before we had like digital and really super high ends and super low ends.
Right.
It's like in a nice sandwich area. If you can sort of sit it in that area, you know the gig is going to sound really, really nice. And towards the end, there's a bell, a little ding bell. And it's 2.5K, I think. And you know if the system's not right, because it will either ring out miles or it'll be really, really quiet. So all you have to do is just increase that little area, and you've got that sort of your sort of higher end of the music scale in a really good position. Right. And that's all I need nowadays. I don't use any other technologies or anything else.
But it's so important to have a handful of songs that you know so well.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same. I used to do a CD, but I mean, I have a playlist, you know, on my phone of songs that I will listen to, and I do different songs for different reasons. Time alignment for the subs, I'll listen to Billie Jean, Michael Jackson. And I'll just keep looping that drum intro, and I'll know if it punches right. And then when the synth bass comes in, you know, I'll do that. I've got other songs. So, but that's a very important point is not to rely on lights, but to listen and to make sure that you're listening with songs that you know, okay, this song shouldn't sound this bright. So that tells you there's something you need to adjust in the rig. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the difference between, you know, having your computer and your software, which might cost a couple of $1,000, and using your brain and your ears, which, I mean, if you were to try and manufacture this up here, you know, we're getting into billions, you know, and we still haven't managed to, you know, get anywhere near that at the moment. So that's what you should be using.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. But you have to have that experience that, 10 years or more to know that your instincts are correct.
Yeah. It's an age and a confidence thing. And it's, you know, your past experience, the learning, you know, when they all lock in, you get to a certain age in life when things start to lock in your mind, right, I know what I'm doing, kind of, or you've developed the confidence to say that you know what you're doing.
But I mean, it's like been there, done that, you know, you just feel confident, and that only comes though from doing it over and over until, you know, I think it's really important. Tell me what you think about this. I think it's important to record your front of house mix and listen back to it, you know, in headphones or in your car or whatever. How do you think that that's helpful in someone who's maybe mixing the same band every night to get their mix better? Or do you think that the front of house recording doesn't matter at all and just go with whatever?
Oh, no, it really does matter. It really does matter. And it's quite funny because when I do record them, and I do record them quite often, and then when I put them on, I find that your brain switches into this analyze mode, you know, and you're analyzing it and you're studying it and you're looking at it from top, bottom, left, right, backwards, forwards, you know, you're looking at it from every angle. And you're absorbing all that sort of stuff. Well, I could have done that. This was a bit pants, you know, all that, you know. Yeah. So, I agree with you. That's you know, a really, really important thing. And I've got years worth of material that I've recorded and, you know, and I still play back. I was listening back to a load of stuff in the car the other day. And,
I do it because it really kind of tells me, especially the things in the mid-range, keyboards versus guitars versus vocals, how's that balance, you know, that sort of stuff. You know, I'll find, wow, was the snare drum really that loud?
Yeah.
You know.
I'd say another really interesting thing that I speak about quite often to a lot of people is the thing what I call the approach, where you know, you're mixing the same band night after night after night, but you're not mixing in the same building night after night after night. So quite often you can, you know, a classic example, I was in Italy, turned up in the room which was completely marble. I mean, completely marble. And I watched the other bands earlier on, and I saw them all die in there. This is, you know, you're in just a huge reflective
chamber
monster.
Yeah.
And so you have to change your approach to how you're going to mix in that building. And all these guys were just doing their same thing that they do every night, you know, whereas what works for me, it might not work for anyone else, but I look at it as a thing of beauty. These rings are like you know, if you had a solo violin or a solo cello in there, it would sound beautiful because you're using the reflection of the room and the acoustics. So what I tend to do is then I keep the band right down.
Right.
The vocal is a beautiful thing. If you've got a beautiful vocalist, use the vocal, and then the music is just a slight backing in the background. You know, you even speak to the band about keep it down on stage, and quite often they understand what's going on. So you have a much more sort of intimate performance, which the audience love. And then when someone does their solo, you know, you can bring their solo right up, you know, and approach it in that sense.
Yeah. That's true sound reinforcement at that point. You're just reinforcing what the room's not giving you. And if the room's giving you a lot, you need to let it, because you're just going to fight it and it's just going to go nuts.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I mean, Brixton Academy is a classic. I've seen young guys go there loads of times, you know. And there's a sort of reflection in there. I call it the growler. You can give the PA a load of energy for a period of time, but you don't realize that energy is kind of building up, and then all of a sudden you start to hear this thing go, it's like growling at you, and then you've got to back it down again. Yeah, and then it all makes sense, you know. But you get these guys that go in there and they try and beat this thing, and you can't beat it. This, you know. This,
I'll overcome it. I'll just turn it up louder. That doesn't make any sense. From a physics standpoint.
It's all about approaches for different buildings, you know. You know, you see some guys who really understand that, and then some guys who don't.
So, I know you have embraced digital consoles. Mm-hmm. Walk me through, you know, switching from analog to digital, and what is the main thing that you feel like, I definitely don't need the analog anymore for live?
Well, that's not true. I love analog, and if you can find the budgets and find exactly what, I would still use analog. What I have noticed is my back doesn't ache as much.
Bending over.
You're just carrying the bloody things in, you know.
That's
especially when you use that, you know. So I used to like my XL3s, 4s, and Heritages. You know, they're not light things.
Right.
It's just the ease with some of the digital boards. I mean, I have a particular brand that I really, really like. I'm not going to, you know, push the brand on there, but you know, if anyone's interested, they can just look me up and find instantly what I'm into. But it's all the effects that are built into it, which are like classic effects from my analog days that I really, really love. And the ergonomics of these certain boards work to me like an analog board, like proper mixing, which is like a lot of hand movement and things flying around. It's non-linear. It's a lot of movement. And that's ease of use. I mean, some of these boards now are just, you know, you just fire them in, plug them in, you know, get your Cat 5 or Cat 6 in, bang, you're up, you're running, you know?
Yeah.
Which gives you a lot more overtime to really be doing what you're meant to be doing, you know?
Sorry,
Carol.
So it's mostly, you'd say, the ease of effects and not needing the outboard gear, things like that?
Yeah, and I would say in the last 5 years they have become a lot better. I mean, they are beginning to sound so much warmer and so much, you know, some of the early ones were really horrible.
Yeah.
You know, there's bacon machines.
Yeah, bacon. They sizzle bacon for you. Yeah,
they sizzle bacon. You know?
Yeah, there was, you know, Yamaha was one of the first really into the whole digital market, and what's funny about about that company and is like, there's make it sound good, make it sound right, or make it sound correct, or make, you know, and they were more like, this is correct, you know, this thing converted to digital should be this thing, but they weren't taking into effect the non-linearity of, you know, harmonic distortion and things of that nature. And so they were trying so hard to just make the ones and zeros be correct that they forgot about, like, you got to dirty it up, and that's what makes it sound good.
Yeah. But also, I think there's also another angle that I've always looked at is in different parts of the world, people have different hearing. The way that they perceive music and hear music are completely different. And to me, that part of the world is very, very high-end and very, very precise. Whereas when I go to your part of the world, the States, I turn on the radio and instantly I hear just bottom-end radio, just bass and boom and push, you know? Whereas if you, in my part of the world, in Europe and the UK, it's mid-range, you know. So, and if you find equipment which is produced in these parts of the world, they tend to emulate where they come from. And so that's why I always feel like Yamaha always had that, you know, that precise, almost sibilant, like a child shouting in my ear. You know, it's not my thing, you know.
Annoying,
Yeah. So, but I think they've all got a lot closer now. I think they're all sort of, you know, getting much of a muchness.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I had to embrace it because I worked for some places that's what they had and that's what you used. But, you know, there's still nothing like analog as far as the sound, having a knob for every feature on every channel, you know. You can start from nothing and get somewhere faster. But when you're talking about going from this venue to that venue, you know, and you've got like a set list that's got all these changes, that's when it really starts to shine. And you can have a total different rack of effects for this song than you do for that song, you know.
You can also get yourself lost in muddles and
you can, yeah. Well, and I think it takes a certain wherewithal in your brain to be fast enough to understand the pages that you're flipping through, and so it's, you know, it's good to find a live console that thinks like you think, and none of us think the same. So, you know, for some it's Allen and Heath, for some it's Midas, for some it's Digico. That's fine, you know. I mean,
you're absolutely right.
I think at this point they're all getting to the point where they're sounding good. They're not in the way. It's just now a tool that you can use. But before it was like, this thing's getting in the way. I need to figure out how to manhandle this thing. Now it starts to get out of your way and just let you do your thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that thing you were saying about pages and stuff like that, I call that the pattern. When you work with a band or you're touring, you learn the pattern of how the mix works. I mean, your hands automatically do it, and that's the pattern. It's like a martial art. You know, you learn that sort of thing, your flow.
Right.
And that's why you have to have that, you know, you find the correct desk that works with your flow. Exactly what you were saying, you know, that works for you.
Yeah.
I love the pattern. That's, you know, it's something I spend ages and ages like going through it in my mind. You know, this goes here, that goes there. It's a bit probably OCD, I think. You know.
I think most good sound guys are. I mean, kind of a control freak, kind of. You know.
Well, you do find that. I'm front of house guys like me. It's like, you know, I like the thing that I can go to a gig and be really antisocial. I got a pen around me. I can watch a gig. And then have my little bouts of OCD. So I'm probably really screwed up. But
do you have any studio experience?
Yeah, I worked in studios for about 10, 15 years. So I did all the first 3 Portishead albums. Then I did loads of like punk bands before that, and all kinds of stuff. I've worked in studios on and off, and for a long period of time.
How do you incorporate what you learned in the studio and techniques that you use live, or do you? I guess from a mix standpoint, maybe, or even a mic placement or selection. You know, anything that you think that you picked up in the studio. Is there anything that you would say sets you apart from other front of house guys because of your studio experience and how you implement that?
No, I wouldn't say anything that sets me apart. What I have noticed and what I do like now is, well, in the digital era that we're in, is all of a sudden I have access to simulations, toys that I did have back in the studio days. Like, you know, you could never take an EMT plate on tour.
Right.
You know, or you know,
yeah,
and you know, the big AKG springs you could never take on tour. So all of a sudden, I've got access to simulations of those things, which are great pieces of studio kit.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think. I think they're quite two different disciplines. But what the studio does teach you is you spend more time analysing tone of instruments and frequencies. And also, you're close enough to see how the musician's playing it. So you learn things about the way they're playing and their actions and all that. So that's, yeah, it's a different side, but you do learn a lot more about the instrument, I think.
Yeah.
Or instruments.
Yeah. Yeah. Things that they're playing, techniques that they're using and learning how.
Which you never see that live because you're a distance away and it's a different kind of thing, you know, but it's an intimate thing, the studio.
So other than plates and things like that, is there any outboard gear that you still use, or are you completely no side racks at all now?
No side racks, no side racks, nothing at all.
That's awesome. It's easier, right? I mean,
well, yeah, it might be because I'm getting older and lazier, but no, I just turn up and they always ask me, "You got anything to plug in?" It's just no, just plug in the desk, and that's it. I just need, you know, one Edison, and that's me done.
And then charge your cell phone.
yeah. Well, you know, I do that for the desk.
USB, huh? Yeah, isn't it great?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite venue that you've ever mixed at?
Yeah, there are a couple. I should know the name of it. The old one blew up. There was a massive explosion. The gasworks blew up and took the actual venue out.
Oh, wow.
And they rebuilt it. And what they tend to do, they have a lot of money from the government for arts in France. So when they build these venues, they're acoustically incredible. Some of their acoustic engineers out there, I think, are the best in the world.
Yeah.
And you go into these places and it's just like, oh my God, this is just perfection. You know, whatever you do is just on the money. Yeah. It will come to me. I do like the Albert Hall. Just did a show not very long ago in the Albert Hall for a US New Zealand band, Unknown Mortal Orchestra. And they've just put in a new D&B system in there and really done it well. They've done it so well because I've mixed in there so many times before and I've never been happy. I went in this last time and it's just like, my God, what have you done? You know, you've made this building into a beautiful place to mix in. The O2 in London for an arena, brilliant. You know, they did a really, really good job there.
Who were you mixing for at the O2?
The O2, last time I was there, that was Brit Awards I was doing.
Okay.
And that was a bit of a controversial night. It was the night Madonna fell over and I was doing Kanye West that night. And with a flamethrower and every other word was the F word, so it was bleep the whole time on TV. But it was fun. It was really good fun. So I got to rattle all the drinks off of all the really rich people's table that night. So, but it's a great standing room. It does work well.
Yeah.
So it's going back a bit, that one.
I saw you at the Hollywood Bowl. How was it?
Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah. Was it?
I love Hollywood Bowl.
It sounded killer. That was Adele. You got me and my wife passes, and we came, and of course I came up to you afterwards and told you how good the tom sounded. and you said, yeah, it's not rocket science, you know. And it's funny though how many people aren't paying attention to enough detail. I think they're kind of, I think that your mix style, if I could put a style to it, it's that you're mixing from the ground and from 30,000 feet all at the same time.
Okay.
Like you're focused on these details clearly because they're there, but then the whole thing is just this beautiful, smooth. There's nothing that ever stood out to me, you know, and it's like, I hate going to concerts because the mixes are so bad. I mean, it's really bad. And some of them are so loud, I'll have to put like tissue in my ears because it's like my eardrums are quite literally distorting.
Oh,
I'll ask my wife, "You need tissue?" It's like, it's loud. I'll use my phone and it's like, it's 110 A-weighted. And I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, but so part of the magic, this is what I was talking, you know, like being the magician.
Right.
Part of being the magician is creating that air of this is loud, but it's not. Right. You know? It's because you look down and you're running, you're looking at 98. Right. You know, with peaks of 103. Right. You know? And then people are going, wow, you know, that's a really natural range to hear things at. Right. Yeah, I like the tissue paper thing there. Yeah.
I've had to do it a couple times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's so true. The whole, like, somehow, first of all, I'm not like a fan of having an SPL meter even at front of house. I know when it's too loud. Yeah. And it's not that it's too loud. I know when it hurts. I don't care what the meter says. I care how it feels and how it sounds, right? So I don't care if it's 105 but it sounds good or if it's 95 and it sounds good. I just want it to sound good. Yeah, yeah. You know, and I mean, sometimes you have to measure because literally there's like, you know, city ordinances and things like that, but
we have so much of that in Europe. You know, we have noise police for everything, you know.
With a clipboard, writing down every 5 minutes.
Well, you got to sign a waiver form. You know, if you go over this, you're liable for a £2,500 fine. You know, stuff like this. It's just taking the fun out of things. You know. Yeah. I'd rather that than, you know, I did a show in Turkey with Air many years ago. I suddenly had a look to the side of me, and the local law official was waving a gun at me, saying it was too loud. Literally, yeah. I mean, literally like that. Yeah. And then I kind of, okay. And I kind of, I'm not arguing with you. I took it down just a little bit. And then he liked the next song and he was dancing. It was just the boost, you know, I just thought this guy's a loose cannon. Yeah.
I say his cheese slid off his cracker.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that one.
Yeah, I think it's important to get the warmth, the depth, the punch, you know, nothing that's too, you know, and it's usually in the high mids where a guitar or a vocal can be shrill and rip your face off. If you can get the high mids right, you know, 2K to 5K, everything else just kind of sits in there and you just let it, you know.
Well, guitars are notorious for that. I mean, you know, that you have to. One of the things also I should mention is that shows I do spend a lot of time talking to the musicians about their instruments, trying to build trust either way, so I can go into make sure the tunings are correct on drums, and, you know, have we tried doing it this way, or looking at amplifiers, have you tried this amp, or have you tried this combination, or maybe we can go here and this really works. Yeah. For the translation of your sound out front, you know, it's that building that whole, you know, we're all on the same side and the same team, and you want everyone to go away and go, that band was killer, right? You know, and that's, you know,
being the fifth musician, you know, you're just out at front of house, but yeah, it's so important to have that relationship, because if you come off right away and just go, hey, your tone sounds like crap, and you don't know the guitar player, he doesn't like you now, and you're, you know, so you have to be careful how you approach. Yeah. But when they know that you care, they know that you're asking these questions because you want the audience to hear them the best that they can be heard, you know, then it's like, okay, now we're a team, now we're a band, and we're doing the best that we can. Yeah, fixing it at the source, obviously. Yeah.
Well, diplomacy as well is part of our job. So, you know, it's a really big amount of our job. You know, there's nothing worse than being that miserable sound guy. You know, no one likes that guy. You know. Yeah. You know,
Or the guy in the club that's got his feet up on the console and is reading a magazine while the band's playing.
We've all seen it.
Yes, I've been there. I've never been that way. It's like, you know, So how do you handle big arenas when you're talking about, you've got the main left, right, but then let's say you've got outfills that are covering way up, you know, way up high, or delay fills way in the back. How do you go about doing the best that you can to make sure that everyone gets the best sound that they can, you know, no matter where they're sitting?
Well, this is to have a very good systems tech. You know, you can't be a jack of all trades, and it's having a very, very good relationship with your systems tech and explaining to him what you're trying to achieve and how to achieve it, and spending the time, you know, when you're sound checking and when that PA is being rigged and when you're ringing stuff out, going all around and talking to your systems engineer about, can we spread this here? Can we do this? Can, you know, it's having a vision and being able to translate that vision to people you're working with.
Yeah.
One of the you know, one interesting things recently was, you know, the last Frank Ocean things that I was doing. They were in 7.1 outdoors, and learned a lot. You know, what not to do, what to do, and you know, having really good systems guys, and just, you know, you sit down after the end of each night and have a really good drink with them to the stage where you just fall over, but you're talking ideas backwards and forwards about how we can expand this and do this. And, you know,
wow, 7.1. I imagine the audience would have to be kind of in a not too spread out so that you can get around them. It's mad. 7.1 with a huge thrust, and this was at festivals. Wow.
So you turn up at a festival and literally take it over the night before and get your towers in.
Wow.
And you know, it was really, really interesting, and you learned things that you could do where we had a string section at one stage on the thruster, and they're in front of your main PA, which is left and right, which is taking, say, 70% of your load of the mix, left and right is your main hang. But then you have an orchestra all mic'd up in front of it. So, you know, you have to come up with like crazy ideas on the hoof. And I thought, well, why don't I use my surround speakers for the orchestra pointing inwards, you know, and just so you learn about placing things in different ways. And it was really, really interesting experience.
Wow. That's awesome. My daughter loves Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
She's 15. I guess it goes with the territory.
Yeah.
Okay. What about, let's talk about mics real quick. Maybe just some of your go-to mics. I would say, do you have anything that you use that you like, you won't really, like, that's it, that's all I'm going to use?
I'm pretty flexible. I mean, I can use you know, most things. And I've gone from really high-end vocal mics. A lot of, you know, I used to be a real Sennheiser nut, and use a lot of the really, really high-class, sorry, excuse me, Sennheiser mics, but and really not like SM58s and stuff like that. But I've gone completely flipped on it, and I'm back at 58s again, and just love their how they got it so right so early, you know. It's a you know, it's an honest thing. It's an honesty to it that I really, really like. Snare drums, I've really become a fan of the Bear Dynamic M201 TGs. Man, for a snare drum, every day. Yeah, absolutely. For the top, man, that's the one on there. And I've tried a lot of things over the years on snares, and you know, the 57 is a fantastic mic again. And I never really found anything better until that 201, and it's just like, yeah, it just captures it just perfectly. And guitar amps, really big fan of the Shure Ribbon. Is it 313s?
I'm not sure.
The Ribbon mic, red grill on them. They give a really nice tone to guitars. They take out that harshness and just that real, like, yeah, you know, that's how the amplifier should be sounding.
Right.
You know, and then I like the old Sennheiser, what are they called? Is it 441s? Big old square Sennheisers, you know?
441, yeah.
Yeah, 441. Beautifully built.
Yeah.
Beautifully built mic. Terrible clip.
The squared off clip.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Really was great.
You
but
know,
apart from that, I'll use anything.
In the studio, the 441 is one of my favorite kick drum mics.
Yeah.
As far as getting that rock and roll smack, you know, but still have some bottom end. I mean, I have to usually couple it with something else, but yeah, that's who was it that sang on that? Stevie Nicks. She sang on the 441 live a lot.
Yeah, I used to give them to Frank to use live.
Yeah,
all the time. They sound brilliant.
Yeah,
you know. And if you ever look at the you know, the pattern projection for it, it's fantastic. You know, it's a really, really, really well designed mic.
It looks like a space age ray gun.
yeah, and it's big.
Yeah. Yes, and it's not a side address mic. I've seen people think that it's a side address. It's like, no, you gotta.
yeah, totally.
All right. Well, that's cool. I'm definitely gonna check out the Buyer.
Yeah, give it a go, Joe. Really, I'm really big fan, and they're not that expensive.
I had someone turn me on to a while ago, Telefunken the M80, which is just a dynamic vocal mic, but trying that on the snare. And it was like a 57, but with more low mids already turned up. You know, I didn't need to add 200.
I've seen that a few times. I've seen a few people use that.
All right, I'll check that out. So what advice would you give someone who's wanting to be an engineer, whether it be live or studio? What advice would you give them of what they need to be able to do or need to learn in order to be successful? Or just to be good? Because successful is certainly a relative word.
To be really passionate. I mean, you know, it's not, you have to be there for the right reason. And it's going to be a long road. And it's going to be hard at times, really, really hard. And you know, and it can be, you can have a lot of relationships break up all the way through it. It's hard, but if you're really, really passionate about it, you'll make it work. And that's all I can say. You just make it work.
Yeah.
You know, and you see that, like some of the people I said I've you know, spent time with. You see those guys who they've got something up there. They're really passionate about it. They really, really want to learn. They really want to do this. And you can tell the fakers between the ones who really want to do it and who are fake.
Yeah.
And that's all I can really say, you know. And everyone's got their own style. Everyone's got a different way of mixing.
Yeah.
But it's whether or not they have that enthusiasm. And that's what I love.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think it's got to be a love of music, you know.
Yeah, it is.
You know.
It is.
And
imagine a world without it.
You know, I mean, is there anything else that just the right combination of notes can literally give you, you know, make your hair stand up?
Yeah, I know. I just bring back memories and just give you a feeling and just, you know, it can do so much just by something in the air.
Right. Sound waves moving your ears.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty awesome. So, well, you talked about 7.1, but just to kind of get your official take on it, what is your thoughts on mono versus stereo in live? Mixing a mono rig or a stereo rig?
I'd use a stereo rig. Stereo, you know, but be careful with how you place things, you know, because you lose energy. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. I can't even remember using a mono rig, to tell you the truth. It's been a long, long time since I sat in front of a mono PA.
Some people still swear by it. I'm of the God gave us 2 ears for a reason. One's on the left, one's on the right.
Well, yeah. And that's funny because that's what I came back to the conclusion after doing the 7.1 is, you know, I'm back to stereo.
Yeah.
You know, because we have 2 ears, and that is a purpose for it. Otherwise, we'd have a whole row of them all around our head, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I mean, we've got 2 ears, 2 eyes, and
one asshole.
Well, yeah, but I say it so that we can watch and listen twice as much as we talk.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people are just kind of like they talk. It's like, yeah, but the proof's in the pudding, you know. So I like listen and watch twice as much as I open my mouth. You know, that's a
really good way of looking at it. I like that. I like that. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah. Okay. Who is your favorite American engineer? No, I'm kidding.
It's you, of course.
Of course. Yeah. No, I was really excited to do that small tour with you. You know, it was
a great time.
What's that?
It was a great time.
Well, yeah. I mean, I learned a lot, you know, watching you, and I think not that I didn't learn anything technically, but I did. But what I learned most, I think, from you was your attitude. And you would say to me, like, when something would get stressful, you'd say, Joe, look at my face. Am I bothered? And I'd be like, no, so you're like, dude, just chill out. You know, it is what it is. You know, you didn't not care, but you also just had a good perspective of like, we're going to get through this. It's all good. Chill out.
Yeah, you got to, and that's the thing when you're mixing. It's you learn that from you. There's a thing I've spoken about and a few other things. I call the recovery rate. Something really goes wrong at a moment. You miss a cue or something really shit happens. Your brain suddenly goes into like this weird, like fight and flight sort of mode. You know, you're sort of, like this, right. And it's your recovery rate from that. How fast you can recover and get back onto track. Is what really makes the difference in you know, being able to mix well. And that's sort of trying to have the persona where, you know, something's stressing you out, just keep it calm. Yeah. Just keep it level. Yeah. You know, it works out.
Well, you definitely do it. I think it comes across in your art form of mixing. I think it comes across just hanging out with you. Nothing's going to get under your skin too much. You're just going to kind of roll with it. And, you know, and I mean, yeah, I had a great time. So I was glad to be able to be on that little tour, but I wasn't happy about the Coachella debacle, but we won't talk about that.
Well, there's a classic example, isn't it? You know, that was, no, we won't talk about it, but yeah, I like the way that it was all tried to get pinned on us at the end, and we were.
But at the end of the day, even though we were way more probably stressed than anyone, the audience still did get a good show, and it just took a little while to get started.
Yeah, just a little.
But I'm sure the live recording came out really well.
Yeah, it probably did. It probably did.
All right, last question.
It's funny, you kind of block those things from your memory to a degree, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like I've had a trauma.
Yeah.
Put it to the side.
Yeah, I don't ever want to go to Coachella. Yeah.
Oh, I love it though now. You know, it's funny. I've done it so many times since. And it's
really?
All run smoothly. Yeah, and it's been great, and you know, not a problem. And
that's because I wasn't there to screw things up.
No. It was quite. I mean, how many Coachellas had there been before that? It was still relatively new, wasn't it?
At least 4 or 5, probably. Okay. Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, it's a big one, you know. So, last question I think would be, where do you see this industry going in the next 10 years? I mean, depending on when someone watches this, you know, we're certainly going through a lot right now. But assuming things get back to kind of normal, where do you see the industry going? Concert goers, for performance.
Okay, I think what's happening at the moment is a lot you know, due to what is going on, we won't go too in depth into it, but a lot of there's a weeding out process going on at the moment, and almost to a degree, there is almost too many engineers and too many this and that in the business. I'm not being that guy who's being God about it. I just think that's the situation that we've got to. And I think a lot of people will be finding different directions in life, which, you know, it's like a weeding process, isn't it? You know, when you have plants, you have to, you know, tend to them and then they grow again. And so I think the industry will start growing again and really grow rapidly.
Do you think 7.1 is going to be a thing, or?
No. I mean, I worked on a show with Air, and it was they were supporting Kraftwerk just before this fellow in Kraftwerk passed away in Dusseldorf, and you had the Tour de France actually running behind the stage, and they were doing Tour de France, you know, and that was in Dolby Atmos, and it was quite incredible. I mean, but I walked away from it, and I walked away with the feeling that I felt like a caged animal. I was in the middle, and I just had audio just coming from all directions at me.
Yeah.
And then it gets back to the two-ear thing again, you know. Yeah. You don't have a focus. You know, when you're looking at a band, you have that focus at the band, and you have that. And that's where I am. I mean, you have L Acoustics with their Laisa. Yeah. Which I think is very, very clever. It's very, very good again. And I think that will be used in just different ways for actually just placing things behind you or placing things around. But it won't be the main feature.
Yeah. Because it can be kind of sensory overload if you're doing Dolby Atmos live, can it? I mean, where do you draw your attention? And to me, that's like, you know, from sound and lighting, it's we're telling you what you should be listening and looking at, you know?
Yeah.
And so if it's everywhere, it's kind of like, I mean, I think it's great for movies where it's off screen, but it's still part of what you need to know is going on around you.
Yeah, totally. But we could be wrong. I mean, we could be sort of like, you know, having a conversation in 10 years' time, Joe, and goes, God, Joe, we were so wrong.
Well, who knows? Yeah. I think in the next 10 years, I'd like to see more smaller venues again, where, you know, 2,000, 3,000 seats to go see the Foo Fighters instead of at O2 Arena. It's a different experience. I want to see Dave Grohl sweat, you know?
Yeah. 2,500, 3,000 capacity, no more than 5,000 maximum, but 2,500, 3,000. You just get that energy, man. You just get the whole, you know, 99 cents of that dollar, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you get every single bit. Because you got the band, you got the sweat, you got the power, you got the, you know, the tension in the room, you got everything, you know, and that is what show's really about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's big enough to be powerful, but it's small enough that in a very quiet, soft moment, you could bring it down and hear a pin drop, you know?
Yeah. But this is the thing I always wanted, you know, bands to do if they got really, it's super, super big, is rather than do the big arena in the town, why don't they spend a week in the town? Right. You know, I know it's all about money and, you know, this and logistics and all that sort of stuff, but wouldn't they be giving so much more back to their fans? You know, and their fan base would really, you know, really adore them.
I really was excited that you said that, yes, you'd chat with me, because I don't know, I think you're, you know, you're obviously a successful engineer. You're beyond talented. And so I just really, truly thank you for taking the time to chat with me. And, you know, I'm honored that you said yes.
No, I told Joe, you know, I'm enjoying, I just like talking to you. I like, you know, I enjoy doing stuff like this. I mean, I went to India last year and I met a whole load of people that I've never met in my life, and it was just such good fun, and just talking about engineering and talking about mixing, and, you know, and then going out having drinks. And this is what it's about. It's a community, and it's a thing about sharing our experiences so that the next generation of us, you know, there's a legacy, you know?
Yeah.
And,
it's so important. I mean, you know, especially, you know, I'm real heavy into the studio side because that's where I got my start. And then of course it turned into live, but my real love is just the creation of music. But,
yeah,
you know, like the people that taught me, they're not doing it anymore. And so it's like, it's up to us now to pass this baton. And, and there's a lot of bad information out there. And so I'm trying to be one of the people that is passing down good, solid information, you know?
Yeah, totally. Well, you know, you are, so
I'm trying.
You're succeeding, so you know, it's a great thing.
It always feels good when I see that you liked something, or you know. Yeah.
No, you know, it's so hard because we have such sort of media overload nowadays. There's so much stuff just coming in continuously, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, when I see your stuff come out, it's like, it's good, you know.
Good. Well, thank you. That means a lot coming from you. Well, guys, as you can see, Dave is a wealth of knowledge and an extremely nice, humble guy. This man has been around the world and he has done a lot, so it is an honor to have sat down with him. Dave, thanks so much for sitting down with me. It was a real treat and it was fun catching up with you. Guys, if you liked this video, if you want to see more videos like it, leave a comment in the comment section, like the video, share it with your friends, start a dialogue with me. I love the community that we're building, so let's keep that going. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next video. If you like this video, then click that like button, I appreciate it, and subscribe to the channel and help support Sidoti Sound, and click that bell if you want to be notified when I release new videos. And of course, you can find me on all sorts of social media, so be sure to check that out. If you'd like to work with me on an upcoming project, then make sure to visit SidotiSound.com for more information. All right, guys, thanks a lot.